I'm seeing there's some chat there. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to April 23rd's edition of Bar Talk. Well, one of the things that I was remiss yesterday in doing was announcing not only, I guess, was it Earth Day, but that it was Administrative Professionals Day. And I'm mentioning it now only because my understanding is in lots of cases, offices carry through an entire week being Administrative Professionals Week. So don't forget your administrator. Today we've got some up-to-date information. PMO SCJ1 was updated again, effective today, April 20. Well, actually, did it have April 22nd on it? I think it actually might have had April
22nd. That.
Right, it had effective April 22nd on it, but I believe it was just posted this morning. So it would be effective now. It extends the operational date to May 15th for those cases that it won't hear. And it also announces new cases that it will hear and that are eligible for scheduling. And I briefly compared the two and we put together this slide for you. I think this is non-attribution slide, but I believe this represents what is now listed as cases that will be scheduled and heard effective today, while the order is still in effect through May 15th. So you'll see among those that is probably the most interesting is the uncontested FM type cases. So if any of those apply to you, it looks like it's now time to seek a scheduling of these uncontested cases. I happen to have one myself. We'll see how quickly we can address it. As I mentioned before, we were looking at using a third party arbitrator to codify the agreement and then send it in for a signature with a judge, and it looks like we may be able to make some changes now. All right, anything more we should mention about that, Angela?
I don't have anything else, sorry, no.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a special guest today. It is Judge Libby Mitchell, probate judge from Kennebec County, and she's going to share with us some of what her people have been doing, what she's been doing to essentially allow the court to still help its constituents, and also some information about how she's dealing specifically with guardian conservatorship cases. Judge Mitchell?
Thank you very much. And I don't need to tell attorneys that each probate court sometimes has its own protocol. So if you have any questions, specific questions about guardianships, please call the register of each court. Kennebec is one of the larger caseloads. Obviously, it's Cumberland, York, Penobscot, and Kennebec is right up there because Riverview and the Veterans Home is in our purview for guardianships. We've noticed, frankly, in Kennebec that there have been very few filings for guardianships of minors. It's been mostly adults, but I wanted to tell all the attorneys, all the courts are open in some way. Business has not stopped, and there was a rumor about at one point that everything had stopped, and I can understand that. The courthouse in Augusta, Kennebec County, the older courthouse, is locked to the public. Staff is there, and we are continuing to hold hearings on things that have to be heard. Most things we have put off, but we have been able to even do modest hearings, if you will, on contested cases using Zoom. And I know Androscoggin is using Zoom. I believe Cumberland is using some other platform. But the point is, when we need to go forward, respecting due process and giving people an opportunity to be heard, we've been using these platforms. And I've been surprised at how well the public has gotten used to that. And it's not ideal. And if if there's any question at all, we can issue an interim order so that we can come back and visit this in person in a shorter time frame. The other challenging issue for us is service, but what most of us have worked out, and with the law court's blessing in terms of service requirements and due process, is that a designated person in one of the congregate living facilities can be designated to provide service. Then the question of visitors for guardians, they are also allowed to conduct their visits electronically or whatever. If this can't be done, we'll put it off. But in many cases, I'm dealing with Riverview and cases that need to be heard in some fashion. And of course, as you know, the new probate code requires the respondent to be present, absent clear and convincing evidence. So we've even conducted one with a patient at Riverview who happened to be on his meds and really appreciated very much being in court and talking with everyone. They could see everyone. So I think there was the service issue, the visitor issue, and that we are open for business in some fashion. The paperwork is I'm working a lot at home, as most of you are, I'm sure. So my office is sending to me anything that needs my signature. I scan it and get it right back to them. So we're trying to keep the entire business of the court moving if possible. And I think that's true of every court. I think the smaller courts have had less, what shall I say, experience in using these internet platforms. So I'm not sure what you'd find in Washington County. But the judges themselves are having a Zoom meeting to talk about issues from COVID and how we can better serve folks. So probably I should let you ask questions because I may not have covered what you need to know, if you have any.
Well, I have one for you while others might chime in. Judge Mitchell, you had mentioned, did you say that you had actually done some testimonial type hearings?
I have. I do it on a rare case, like this needed to be heard. Actually, it was a case of a minor. I also have another hearing scheduled, and you're going to ask about evidence and changing of witness and exhibit list. Maybe that's what you're asking. But everything is tailored to the specific case because some of these cases really must be heard because of the situation of the person who's closed for guardianship. So I have a case where there are a lot of DHHS records. They are so voluminous that scanning them is not necessarily the wisest thing to do. So we do have a protection order, meaning that they are used only for this court proceeding. And so normally what happens is you come into the courthouse, you sit down with it and spend all the time you want to getting the information you need for the court. So in this one case with so much volume, we have set up something with the attorneys. They will call my staff. They will set an appointment and they are to come in wearing a mask at a certain time. The papers will be in a room that has been totally cleaned and they can spend as much time with the papers as they wish. So all the CDC protocols will be followed, but each attorney is going to be allowed to come into a conference room in the Kennebec courthouse. So that's how we're doing that. And I think otherwise, most attorneys are exchanging things via the electronic means. But we're not doing a lot of trials. I don't want to give you that impression. If it can wait, we're trying to wait because certainly nothing compares with your being there in person. Another issue, return days, that's going to be an issue for us when we do open up. And so some of the questions are if we phase in an opening up on return days, as you know, everybody's scheduled for the same time. And we just can't have most likely all those people roaming around in the halls waiting for their turn. So we're going to have to make adjustments. So that's our next thing to talk about as judges. How do we phase it in? Let's say we are able to come back into the courtroom, but you're limited in numbers. What about a big trial? And how do you manage those things? So we're thinking ahead as well as trying to manage the crisis before us.
Right. One of the things someone just asked about admitting evidentiary documents. I assume you try to do that as much as you can ahead of time between the attorneys.
Well, quite truthfully, I haven't done a lot of that because we are putting all those trials off. The evidence that I'm talking about that we've dealt with basically is our records from the DHHS, which are, so I am not anxious to do a trial by Zoom if I can avoid it. And so I don't have any experience a lot. In fact, that's one of the questions the judges are going to be addressing next Thursday. How do you deal with a trial with all the evidence that's required for and discovery, all the other issues when people are confined to their own offices? And it's also a problem with visitors, with children. And so that's a concern. So what do? You observe mom and the child via Zoom. I mean, it's just not very workable to get it done right.
Right. Well, I did also want to share, I was going to share this in general, but I'll share it with you because it seems apropos. One of our constituents sent us an article from Florida where a judge was complaining about what attorneys were wearing during their Zoom conferences. Like, he was saying, get up out of bed, get dressed. You know, he was reporting like some were shirtless. You know, they were at a beach, whatever it was.
Well, just so you know, my first Zoom hearing, I'm conducting my hearings from home. I am one of the older people that's protected. And I need to stay away as much as possible, even though I can go into a locked door, go into my chamber. So I'm here, and you notice behind me, I'm in my dining room, and I had forgotten my robe. So I found an old robe of my husband, and it fit me like a tent, but I wrapped it around me. Hopefully people didn't notice, but I try to make it. And in fact, when we come onto our Zoom program, my clerk they're recorded. We have staff there, so everything is the same. So if you needed something for appeal, there is a record of transcription. So they'll announce Kennebec County Probate Court is now in session. And because of the concerns you just raised, we told people once I enter the courtroom, if you will, via Zoom, we are in session and all the rules apply. But it is an interesting experiment. I forgot to tell you I'm barefoot.
Okay. And then one of the other things that I thought was interesting that was mentioned in the article was like the judge was saying that one of the shortcomings of Zoom was that if there was a witness that was testifying and the judge wanted them to stop, maybe because there was an objection or something, that because of the way Zoom works, where the speaker is the one that's speaking, that the judge was saying he was getting red in the face saying stop, and the witness couldn't hear.
As I understand it, the host, which is Kennebec County, can mute anybody. And so I could get them to stop, I believe. I know there have been questions about the security of Zoom. I suspect that there's no security in anything. I'm on the FLAC committee, and they use the same platform that the courts are using, and most of us like Zoom better because on that platform you can't really see everybody at the same time. So but no one can join ours unless, just as this one, unless you have the passcode. I think those towns that had the big outbreak sort of announced to the public we're having a city council meeting and you can join in. I don't think they do that anymore. But anyway, that is a concern that everybody has, is the security of any platform.
Well, thank you, Judge Mitchell. I don't see any questions being posted on chat. You're welcome. Angela, anything on your end for Judge Mitchell while we still have her here before we say goodbye? Or
no, I didn't.
Okay, Judge Mitchell, thank you very much for joining us.
And let me just say, if any attorneys out there have suggestions or questions, please contact your individual probate court so that you'll make sure you have the right protocol for that particular county.
Thank you. Very good point.
Thank you.
So I want to progress to our business slide updates. Angela, did you have some
Yeah.
Did you want to start with those?
I'm gonna try to get through them quickly. We might go over a little bit, so hopefully folks will stick with me for a couple minutes. There was a question about successful paycheck protection plans, people that have submitted for those. Some other attorneys were wondering about those successful stories. If you have one, if you can share it on chat or email me so that I can share it. I know the Maine Justice Foundation was successful in their attempt. So obviously the funds are out right now, but there are people looking for success stories. And then a few things under just MSBA specific. We had a great CLE this morning. You can see the title there. We held it by Zoom. We had 175 participants. It went really well. That will be posted on our website on our as soon as we can get the video uploaded and stuff. It's kind of big, so we're working on that right now. There have been questions about the February bar exam and admissions, and thanks to Melissa Hanson at the Bar Examiners, we heard back from her today, and thank you to Heather and Karen for my staff members to continue to work on that. The results are in. 60 took the test, 30 passed, and the July exam, if you didn't hear, has been postponed to September 30th and October 1st. And Melissa Hanson at the Bar Examiners is working with the courts on setting up a process for remote swearings in. At this point, there's no date set, but she will. She expects to have more details for us next week, and she will share those when she has them.
Great.
I'm very, very pleased to announce that the 2020 John W. Ballou Award, which is the Maine State Bar Association's highest award, will be going to Jackie Rogers, who is the executive director at the Board of Overseers. We've sent out a release on that. You should see it in your email. It's posted to our website. So if you get a chance to congratulate Jackie, I'm sure she would appreciate that. And finally, you can see we've got some upcoming guests. Tomorrow, Aria will be back on for the Overseers, and we've got some new folks for next week. So I hope you can join us.
Great. Angela, thank you very much. And I guess we're out of time now. I did notice that we did have Joe Lewis share a story with us about his experience with the PPP, and he was successful. It's in our chat room, so those of you that want to go on and take a look when it's posted can see that. Right, Angela?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I know we're a little over. Have a great day. See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Judge.